What's going on, everybody? It's Wednesday, October 13th. I just wish that we could get a Friday the 13th in October, but we're not getting it. It's time for The Wire. We've got some very interesting things to cover. We're going to talk about some news that has popped up with Jon Gruden relating to his past. We're going to talk a little bit about the Packers and the Cincinnati Bengals. Richie, man, them Bengals. How about them Bengals? We got to talk about what the hell's going on in Kansas City. And I do have an update on Kyrie. I've got the fantasy football pulled up. We got so much to talk about. More, you're watching The Wire, and it starts right now.
I'm going in, it's first and 10. I'm a legend boy, a champion. They can't match the flows, the X's and O's. I'm breaking the code, true devastation about to unfold. They calling me Derek by the way I roll. Bet you never ever seen a pro this cold. I float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. I mix with I am Mike and the great Ali. I'ma run it back, believe me, baby. I fathered the game, call me Daddy Brady. I'm like that, try be like this. Sammy, so that boy don't miss. It's the return of the greatest. Any way you name it, I'm everybody's favorite. I'm bringing the pain and bringing the fire. Hey, stay tuned, it's going down to the wire.
That's right, folks. It is time for The Wire. Welcome, fellas. Welcome, listeners. We are so excited to have you. I'm glad to see you guys. Hopefully I can speak the rest of the show. Real quick, how's everybody doing?
Good. Doing good, man.
Ready to talk, man. We got some topics.
Oh, yeah. It is going to get real today. So, something we started doing on the other show, I think I'm just going to start doing it here because most of the time my stories come from similar places. We used AP News. We used Bleacher Report. We used Google Sports this week. So there's our sources. We're going to dive right in. Jon Gruden is all up in the news and with breaking news as we're recording at this very minute for some racist comments that he apparently sent in an email about 10 years ago. I did, before we pass it around, I want to get your opening thoughts on it. We'll get to the breaking news here in a minute. What he said in the email was referring to DeMaurice Smith. I'm apologizing if I get the name wrong. Was he had the lips the size of Michelin tires? Initially, when this came out, Gruden told the public that he doesn't have a racial bone in his body, that he's proven that for 58 years. He claimed that he uses the term rubber lips to refer to people who he thinks are lying or went too far. That was his initial rebuttal. We did just learn as we're recording that he is apparently resigning. Guys, this is pretty out of the blue and highly controversial. And I'm gonna go ahead and open it up. Richie, we'll start with you and move it around the horn. What are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Well, here's my thoughts initially before I digest the actual phrase. Last Saturday, before this was recorded, the Raiders are 3-0, and Urban Meyer had just stuck a finger in one young lady's butt. I would never have pictured that Jon Gruden would be the one fired as the first head coach of the season when Urban Meyer is 0-5, I believe, at this point. Especially after not using Robinson at the goal line, etc. So from a football standpoint, if you would have told me, pick him, which coach, as you know, I've been saying from the start, Urban Meyer was a terrible hire. He's not going to last the whole season. It's like Bobby Petrino with the Atlanta Falcons in 2007. And I still stand by that. But I would have never guessed that one, the Raiders would do well, but then two, that Jon Gruden would have to resign when they're doing well. Quite frankly, does he need to resign? I'll say this much. Chances are, because there's other emails the NFL has sent to Oakland that haven't been released. If he's resigning, then it's not a good look for him. And the rubber lips little thing he's trying to defend the quote for isn't going to apply. Will I give him the benefit of the doubt on the rubber lips Michelin tire thing? I don't know. That's a tough one because it's just, we all know the real connotation of that. It's very common sense. This has, been a nasty part of our nation for a long time. I don't believe this is as prevalent as say something like blackface has been, but nonetheless, this is an imagery that's gone away. And clearly, Jon Gruden being in his 40s and 10 years ago saying this as an ESPN commentator, by the way, not even a person in the NFL at the time. It's very disappointing, but it's just unfortunately par for the course. I mean, this is The Wire, but this is also the HTG podcast. We've talked about this, racial inequality. This is nothing new, At the end of the day, one could easily argue that John Gruden is that naive that he didn't like put it 2 and 2 together. And it's possible because I've seen so many people so naive to their own privilege and honestly not even educated on what happened to a lot of the slaves in America. And honestly, the imagery behind that, Aunt Jemima, things of that nature. So don't get me wrong. Is it in the realm of possibility that this man genuinely doesn't understand how that is really associated? It's possible. It's still very unlikely to me. He's, 20 years older than me, and I know what it means. So, not really buying it. It's unfortunate in the perspective of, the Oakland, he kind of rebuilt 3 years ago and things like that. So for the Raiders, this is a massive, kick to the gut out of the blue. But to John Gruden, based on if what's trending and these emails are going to lead to more, and we'll probably, touch on that down the road. If he resigned, it's because he needed to resign, right? Now, maybe this one statement wasn't enough to resign, but clearly if there's other emails that the Raiders have done, he needs to resign. I'm very disappointed, but I'm not surprised. I guess that's the easiest way to describe my feelings on this.
Absolutely. Marvin, this is something, a topic that we know that you're extremely passionate about, circa what Richie was talking about. We are H2G as well. We've said before, and we'll say it again a million times. This is bullshit. What are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Well, I'm shocked. I'm shocked, but I'm not all surprised at the same time. This is The Wire, and same thing applies in life as The Wire. You walk a very thin line in terms of the things that we say and do. And when we say things, ultimately, like, there's some truth behind it. Now, when he said, we got to break down what he said. There's not a racist bone in my body. And, referring to what he said in the email, lips bigger than Michelin tires, you couldn't get any more racist than that, and that's not the first time that he's used a phrase like that before. I'm not going to compare his situation to Urban Meyer's. Urban Meyer, we'll get to him later on, but John Gruden, to me, it's untimely, and it doesn't really add up, because if you're the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders and you just took the job, how long has he been on the job? 2-3 years now? How long has he been? Year three of being the head coach, and you have a Super Bowl. I just don't get it. If you really, are not a racist, or this has just been like if it was just a mistake you made, or just that one thing that he said, I can see that. But just for him to step down just seems a little shady to me. It seems as if you said more things that are clearly disturbing, that are along the lines that lean towards, racism and, the misogynistic comments that he made, the homophobic comments that he made. Everything's starting to come to light, like, every day, and more and more news is disturbing than the last. But, when you look at John Gruden, I look at it like this. Being from Ohio, and Sahe, you've experienced, Richie as well, experienced racism in Ohio. That's just, it's the way of the world, especially in, the Midwest. John Gruden is from Sandusky, Ohio, went to University of Dayton. And I can tell y'all from experience that many white guys like him have said things like that and have tried to cover it up with something else. No, it's exactly what they mean. Rubber lips, referring to lies, I do not buy that 1 second. I think that it's contradicted what he's saying. I think that his response to all the emails that came out or cowardice. If you said something, just own what you said. I think that, if more stuff came to light, you would have had to resign. But it's just a damn shame that you took that job knowing that you were this way. You took that job, and what's more disturbing is what you think of the current players. What are you saying about your current black players? How do you feel now? I don't think that any racial sensitivity training would have done the job, John Gruden. Ultimately, like, when more emails come out and we get the details, we're going to further validate that decision that he should have resigned. But I think that he's extremely in the wrong, and I don't think that just him resigning is enough. I feel like he should get fined as well, because this is something that I'll just go ahead and come out and say it. We just were joking about Urban Meyer and John Gruden's situation before the show. But when you look at it, if this had been black coaches, situations, if Urban Meyer had been black and John Gruden had been black, they would have been fired really immediately. To me, having something dug up, from that long ago, they would have lost their jobs. And I don't really feel that's a conversation for another day. But just for them to exert so much privilege and them to just almost as if get a slap on the wrist, just will never make sense to me. But at the same time, like I said, I'm not shocked. I didn't mean to go on and on with this, but it's something that kind of hits home, for a few of us, and especially me. And John Gruden was, right to step down. You don't deserve that job.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing, man. Real quick before we get to you, Sahe, Richie, you found the rest of the emails, is that correct?
I found the rest of the emails. I do not have time to read them one by one, but I will just recap what they are. He denounced the emergence of women as referees, the tolerance of players protesting, and the drafting of a gay player. To be more specific, he told Bruce Allen that Roger Goodell was a faggot and a clueless anti-football pussy. He said Jeff Fisher should not have been pressured to draft queers, which was Michael Sam, who was drafted by the Rams in 2014. In addition to that, he went to publicly say that Joe Biden is a nervous, clueless pussy, in addition to the things he said about DeMaurice Smith and things of that nature. So there's more profane things, but the point is as we kind of alluded to, if he's resigning, it's because there's no coming back from this. This is scorched earth. And clearly, as we just heard, he's just attacking everything, quite frankly, essentially leftist, which whatever, LGBTQ and women and African Americans, as we just mentioned. So how are you supposed to coach a team when they're all African American? It's puzzling, it's baffling, but again, is it shocking? No, it's not shocking. It's par for the course, unfortunately. It's a white boys club when we always talk about boys club, and that's the reality. And he got away with it longer than he should. He said some really nasty things about Eric Reid. I'm sure there's Colin Kaepernick things as well, but this only has the Eric Reid type situation that he should have been fired like Colin Kaepernick, essentially. So anyways, Sahe, please feel free to chime in, man.
Yeah, Sahe, I definitely want to get your overall approach on this, but also I want to ask you, Marvin sort of alluded to it. Obviously, this stuff is 10 years old. So something's been happening now. Do you have any ideas of what might be going on now that made because this was leaked, right? That means someone leaked it. A lot of times people kind of oversee that angle of news stories when it comes to politicians, sports aficionados, coaches, players, the whole nine. Do you think that there's something bigger going on now that he's doing and someone's holding this over his head and they said, you know what, fine, I'm pulling the trigger?
Can you repeat that question again? I'm sorry.
Basically, do you think that there must be something going on now that brought this to light? Because
I think there's something that's going on now. I'm not.
Emails are 10 years old, right?
Right. That's a good question. Something could be going on behind the scenes. Maybe John Gruden was trying to buy NBC. So they had to put those emails out. You know, the old Bill Cosby conspiracy. John Gruden was trying to, you know what I'm saying, help kids go to HBCUs or something crazy like that. Yeah, I don't know. It could, you know what I'm saying? It could be something absolutely astronomically crazy.
What do you make of the emails themselves?
I don't know. People say crazy things all the time. Who is he saying them to? Why was he saying them? I guess to some people it doesn't really matter too much. But you know, I don't really make a lot out of it myself personally. People said, I thought it was kind of actually funny what he said about the Michelin lips thing, but coming from a white guy, that he's got to understand that people are going to be sensitive to those things. So there's certain things you can't say. I mean, if he would have said it around me, I would have been like, John Gruden, you crazy. Don't say that around the other black people because they're going to whoop your ass. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think he was trying to be hurtful or like, I don't think he's a football coach. Most great football players are black people. You know what I'm saying? Especially in the NFL. You know what I'm saying? So he's gonna have to be around different races of people to really get things going, to have a successful career. So I don't know. It's a hard one because we're not always right. We're not always wrong. Should he resign? Probably. This is something he's probably not going to be able to get over for a long time. It's just sad.
Absolutely. Richie is over here with all the information as he's our on the spot reporter. You got the reason as to what I was alluding to there.
Yes, live on the scene. What happened was the Wall Street Journal got word of the Washington football team's investigation. The NFL has been doing this and conducting this. There was a $10 million fine that happened over the summer. Now, what happened is somebody gave this information to the New York Times, the journalist, like all the emails. And that journalist chose to read everything and found this John Gruden stuff because he was emailing Bruce Allen, as we discussed. So all of these things were to Bruce Allen when John Gruden was working for ESPN. So that's why we found this info, is somebody from the Times has a good connection with somebody from the NFL. And the NFL person was just like, hey, you want to read all this stuff? Go for it. Even the NFL themselves didn't notice these emails because, in all fairness to them, there were over 38,000. So this person was probably just put on their job and said, read everything, see if there's something else. And this is what they uncovered, quite frankly. So, it is what it is. We, quite frankly, the type of verbiage that John Gruden is speaking is very indicative of sports and football and how coaches do talk to people. And that's part of the problem, quite frankly. This isn't a John Gruden isolated incident. A lot of football is, stop, don't complain, stop bitching, get over there. And things of that nature, like the word pussy is used a lot in football. That's just a reality. I'm not saying it's right, but that's kind of the point that we're making here, is that this language and the way people talk, like this old guard needs to go away in terms of how they talk. And to Sahe's point, I don't disagree. If Dave Chappelle said this, I'd be like, all right, like Dave, you can kind of say that. But John Gruden is white, to Sahe's point, which is why it's like, you have to, know your audience. And in this case, it was a private audience. But the bottom line is he should not have been saying something so disgusting, because it wasn't in a joking manner, right? The nature of these discussions. It'd be one thing if I'm doing a roast and I say something nasty about Justin, like we kind of did. But it's intentionally heartfelt to be a joke. This isn't really that nature. I think it's a little different, but I agree with Sahe. Not everyone is necessarily going to find this offensive, but the bottom line is, is this something he probably needs to resign for? Yeah, I'd say so, because he kind of hit like the 4 like cancer culture topics, right? Like what culture is essentially like, don't talk about the disenfranchised, which are the LGBTQ, women, minorities. It is what it is, and he hit everything essentially, right? So he needed to resign. He wasn't going to get fired. I think this was like a forced resign, because if they fire him, he gets money. So I think this was more like a pushed him to like, you need to resign. You don't deserve another penny from us. We don't want to give you that. So I think this was like a mutual I don't deserve to get paid. I'm gonna. So based on what I've read now, and again, people, this was pretty live. This was like 5 minutes before we started the show. So this is our like literal reactions, but here's where we are. John Gruden said some nasty stuff. He resigned. We were going to talk about what were the repercussions were going to be, but here we are.
Yeah, we already know it now.
I'll be a ESPN 30 for 30 one day. Unfortunately, it will be, but it'll be entertaining to watch.
The rise and fall of Chucky.
Yeah, rise and fall of Chucky, for sure. It's a shame, man. That's a tainted legacy, I mean, you already, you stepped in and took a brother's job that you didn't deserve back in the day anyway, and you got the credit for, because that was Tony Dungy's ring that he got credit for. We all know that. But it just comes full circle, because that whole situation looked muddy back then. Because like you said, Richie, it's a boys club, and it's just hard for me to believe, that, I mean, like Sahe, like you said, you're right. Like he's a player's coach, and he's not a racist. I'm not gonna go as far to say that. I think I'll go as far to say he, like many white guys like him, will say ignorant, insensitive things that they think is appropriate to football, like within a context. Like, I don't know, in their mind, they think that works, but I don't know. Like y'all said, he just don't deserve the job. And it's just a damn shame to see a tainted legacy like this.
Yeah, we see it, hopefully, if we've learned anything in the recent years, we don't wait 10 years and then memorialize the guy. Hulk Hogan had a similar situation where he slipped up on the radio, and who knows if, he's, anyway. Richie has suggested that we move over to the Urban Meyer situation as previously discussed. I am a little blind. You guys know I've been October is my acting month. I have gig on gigs. So Richie, are you okay taking point on that?
Yeah, please let me do this. So guys, in audience, we had a scope of what we wanted to talk about, but I want to transition. We mentioned Urban. I did it kind of jokingly, but I do want to talk about this seriously at this point, because John Gruden needed to resign and Urban Meyer should be fired. Like, I really want to discuss this topic, because Urban Meyer broke the one golden rule, in my opinion, of a coach, which is quitting on his team. All right. They played the Bengals. It was, tough loss, heartbreaking. They played well. But the bottom line was is after that, he stayed in Ohio with his family and this, that, and the other. And no coach that I know, or I think is a good coach, would ever leave their team and just say, I need a couple days. I'm not going to. You wait till the off season. That's what coaches do, right? Like, if your family doesn't live with you, that tough shit, pardon the French. You wait till the off season's over, and you should be 100% engaged from day one to the season's over. It's not a good look. It's embarrassing. I can't think of the guy's name. Gosh, the Lions head coach, Dan something. Used to be a tight end. Feel like a dummy. This guy is crying his eyes out, saying how bad he feels that his guys aren't getting that win, even though they're working their asses off, and he needs to do better. And here's Urban Meyer. I'm not going to get into the semantics of like his personal life, but I'm talking about professionally, just the scope of not trying his hardest. It's that simple, right? We've heard quotes earlier like every NFL game's like playing against Alabama. Yeah, it's the professionals, right? And you need to professionally step to the plate. Like he got handed a job that I don't see he deserved. I mean, I've always said this with Urban Meyer. He's done great wherever he's went in college, but they're just different games, you know, like it's not the same. And I'm not saying he can't be that coach, but right now what he's showing me is he has no business in the NFL, right? Like to me, I'm shocked that Shad Khan, the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, even gave him another opportunity. And he said, oh, he's got to earn our trust. So I've already went on my soapbox rant. But to me, guys, I just want to get your opinions as well, because I've never seen this in my 30 plus years of watching football. I've never seen a head coach skip out and cancel practices and cancel tape to go watch his almost, you know, like his previous team's like college game on a Saturday and spend time with his grandkids, air quotes, right? Like what happened is irrelevant. It's the bottom line that he canceled practice and film study because he wanted some personal time when they're 0-4 and they just lost a heartbreaking game at the end of the fourth quarter. That's the stuff that I can't fathom. So let's just go in reverse order. Sahe usually lightens things up. So Sahe, please lighten this up for us, man. I've been Debbie Downer.
What's the question?
That's not a question, just analysis, my friend. What's your take on if you want bare minimum question? What's your take on Urban Meyer's situation? Do you think he should still have a chance? He's 0-5. What do you think about Urban Meyer in the NFL?
I think you know, it's just a bad look. It's just one of those things that's a bad look. I don't feel like he did anything wrong. You know what I'm saying? He getting grind. I mean, he is married. Let's say that he is married. You shouldn't be out here, you know what I'm saying, two fingering buttholes and stuff like that. I don't care if it's your own bar, you know. Just, you know what I'm saying, take her back to the hotel, you know what I'm saying, tell her you're gonna get her an Uber or something, you know what I'm saying. Just, I can't be seen outside with you. And ladies, stop being mad at your boy when he was like, he don't want to take pictures. Like, for this exact reason right here. This is why the old school players don't take pictures. You know, Urban, he's still a young cat, so he didn't have many OGs around him. He like, man, you got that bread. These sack chasers, as they call them in the streets, are going to be after you. So you just got to watch yourself and protect your brand. It ain't nothing wrong with, you know what I'm saying, getting a little something on the side. But, you know what I'm saying, just don't get caught.
All right, you know Sahe, I think that's some great advice for Urban Meyer, right?
Right.
If you're gonna not watch film, which it's clear he's not watching film, at least don't get caught not watching film. I like that, Sahe. All right, Marvin, how about you, man? What's your feelings on the whole situation of his genesis, like the hiring to now?
Well, I completely disagree with Sahe. He's 110% in the wrong. And you have to highlight that for like more than a couple of reasons. Like you said, like since the beginning, you said the hiring, y'all. He was brought in to change the culture, apparently. Now, Urban Meyer is one of the most winningest college football coaches in history. You brought him in to change the culture, the values of the team, you know, the direction of the team. And here you got a guy who, after a primetime game, you know, you lose, and then you stay in town. You stay in town you go to your restaurant only to hit the dance floor and to live it up while your team is 0-4 and your team is flying back to Jacksonville. Like, that's what I had a problem with. Like you said, Richie, no coach that I've ever heard of either has done that ever. Like, ever. And, you know, when you look at all the coaches that they interviewed throughout the week, they said they never could think of any scenario where they lose, especially on a primetime game where, you know, everybody's watching, you know, and you lose and you go in and you celebrate, like literally you celebrate, like you stay behind. while your team is going back to Jacksonville. Like, that's not what they brought him in for. And that just highlights like what I said in the previous segment. You know, I'm going to go there. Like, this is just exerting white privilege at its finest, because if this had been a black coach staying behind at his own restaurant, hitting the dance floor, dancing up on chicks while his team is
two fingers in a butt.
Yeah. You can't tell me there's any scenario where he keeps his job. You can't tell me that. And then lose the next week, lose the following Sunday, lose the next week. You can't tell me any situation where the brother will keep his job. I just don't see it.
Marvin.
And, you know, what's up?
I know you're saying some serious shit, but come on, man. Tony Dungy went 13-3 and lost his job. Could you imagine if he stuck two fingers up a white girl's butt? How quick he would have been fired?
They would have stripped him of his Super Bowl. They would have been like, you know what?
Yeah. They would have been like,
take back your ring.
You got to shave the mustache. You're not allowed to have a mustache anymore. Like, you're not allowed to be around children and women. Like, it would be. Hey. I apologize. Please continue.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but you know, that's what you hired. That's what Khan hired. You know, he is acting like he is acting like an elementary school coach that they just hired off the street. That is what he's acting like. He is not acting like a high school coach or a collegiate coach or an NFL coach, rather, on any level. So I think if he should lose his job, it's not going to be him resigning. Khan is going to have to fire him, but you know, that's the culture in Jacksonville. It's never really been a winning culture down there, and you know, you see how the players are responding to this. I mean, this was just comical. I thought when it came out, I was like, "There's no way he keeps his job," but
here he is.
Richie, you were right. I mean, if this had been Tony Dungy, Denny Green, any of them you can think of,
Marvin Lewis, any of them.
Marvin Lewis. I've seen black coaches lose their jobs for less, you know, and that's what really shocks me, y'all, is that he still has a job after 0-5. And, you know, and this is not going to be the last time.
And the controversies.
Yeah,
right?
The controversies.
And the controversies.
Well, they invested a lot in Urban Meyer, though. They invested
you're right,
lot just to fire him.
Why?
But why?
I don't know. They did that because of his name.
He brought in Tim Tebow
because of his name.
Sahe's on the point. I got one more point, and I want Justin to have an opportunity because poor guy's been like chopping at the bit. So Marvin mentioned white privilege, and I do want to clarify I agree. And here's why I agree. The first thing that when he should have been fired, or at least pause for concern, is he hired Chris Doyle as a strength coach, which was the Iowa head coach who had a racism resignation agreement. Iowa had to pay him out and all this stuff. It was a mess. I don't want to get into that. But the point is, you have a coach who's accused of being racist against essentially a lot of your players. And you're like, oh, we vetted him and this, that, and the other. But in hindsight, I guess we didn't vet him well enough. And then you see how he treats Tim Tebow just because he wants to get some eyes for a quick second and to get rid of him, because he had no intention of having him there. And he talked about building a culture, and then he gets rid of him 2.5 weeks in. And honestly, you know what? I would have rather Tim Tebow be the head coach, because at least you wouldn't have the immoral bullshit going on. At least you would have had him caring that they're losing. And quite frankly, at least you would have had a real culture. But Justin, please, the floor is yours for the end of the show. You never get to be the talking head.
Never happens.
Please, let's see it.
I got 5 minutes because I'm going to bring it
5 minutes.
Man, okay, so I think I stand somewhere in the middle of all of this. One thing that I think is fair to bring up here. Yeah, I mean, Urban Meyer obviously is, a picture of white privilege, and he's got a lot of what he's got in this world because of who he is, what he looks like. We know that that's the world we live in. Also, I think amongst successful people, there's the Wolf of Wall Street effect with some of them. To Sahe's point, if you're going to live that kind of life, don't get caught doing it. This man was an extremely successful collegiate coach. At Ohio State, he had an 83-9 record. Over at Florida, he had a 65-15 record. I'm not even talking about his championships. the man has been successful. We could pull up some of Sahe's old points about the jargon amongst football and all that, and he's probably fit right inside that mold. However, I don't think he was ever prepared to be an NFL coach. To Richie's point, I don't think it's a different ballgame. And honestly, while we have accused the NFL of being all about the dollars before and putting on good shows by putting people here and people there, this year has been a lot different, reportedly. I mean, just by what we have to look at each week, the scores of these games, they're all, for a lot of them are closer than you'd ever imagine them to be. Teams that we thought were going to be terrible or that were terrible just last season have got a fighting shot. So the NFL is the top of the top when it comes to football. It's not like WWE where a few guys can go off and start a whole other league that's better. It's the NFL. It's top of football, and college football is a lot different. Let's be honest. If we were talking college football right now, we'd be talking about how Ohio State could possibly be one of the best teams because they've put enough offensive threats in there. And that's, I think, where like the Tim Tebow decision comes from, is like, let's put a bunch of stars on a lineup and hope that our offense is better than the other offense. And all, in college, you've got athletes that can move between positions and you can pick and choose and push and play and plug and play. So you could do things like put Tim Tebow at tight end, but you can't do things like put Tim Tebow at tight end in the NFL when he's never played the position before, because he's not playing, weeks of scrubs and then Oklahoma, weeks of scrubs and then Clemson. So he doesn't have a place in the NFL. I think he's learning that. He's tarnishing his name. Sahe's point into Marvin's point about John Gruden. It's a legacy that's continuing to be tarnished. I was heartbroken when Tressel had his alleged interaction with players selling stuff, selling their merchandise. Far less of an offense in hindsight to the shit that's coming out nowadays. But if you remember us from Ohio, Tressel was crucified for that shit. So it's crazy looking at this this successful Ohio State coach and what's going on with him. And yeah, I don't. Obviously, this is going to probably affect his marriage, unless you already knew. I think it's irrelevant at this point. Richie, thank you for leading and taking point on that topic. I think that's something that we probably should have had in there all along. So, folks, you're watching and listening to The Wire. We're going to be right back. We're going to give you a little update on Kyrie Irving and what's going on with that, with the New York laws. Then we'll get into some of the NFL scores and catch you up on what's going on with our fantasy league. You're watching and listening to The Wire. Don't go anywhere. What's going on, everybody? It's Justo from the H2G podcast. I'm tuning in real quick just to let you know that we've been listening to you and listening to ourselves, and we know that you want us to go back to our roots. So we're excited to announce that the H2G podcast season 7 will be taking it back to our roots. We're going to be talking about topics that we are passionate about, that we know you're passionate about, and we're going to try to make some waves. So tune in this Friday and every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to the H2G podcast. Don't miss it. That's right, folks. The H2G podcast is back in action and covering the real topics. We've talked about the heartbeat bill. We've talked about social media. We talked about bucket list. Up and coming, going to be discussing COVID-19, the variants. Going to be talking about a crazy true crime of Halloween. Check out the H2G podcast, Facebook, YouTube, and all audio podcast platforms. All right, we're back to The Wire. Gentlemen, we got real in that first subject, so we're going to do an abridged version of our normal content for the back half. I did want to give an update to start things off on Kyrie Irving's situation. So basically, it's going to be the way it is as far as home games are concerned in New York. He's not going to be allowed to play at that stadium, so he would miss if he were to play over half the games. Head coach Steve Nash told reporters on Sunday, I think we all recognize he's not playing home games. Their plan is to play as much with him this year as they can. Just depends on where and how much, according to Steve Nash. Now, last week he didn't get to practice. That was under New York City looking at their laws and basically stating like he technically can't practice here either. And he is now approved to go back to practice. I think the Nets basically looked into it and said, no, this is a private facility. Our people can do what they want inside here. So basically, and Marvin, we missed you last week. I don't think we get to get your point on this. But basically, having Kyrie on this season means having Kyrie away and at practice. Do you guys have any new takes or any takes on that? We can start with you, Marvin.
Yeah, I think it's detrimental to the chemistry of the team, and that's was their problem last year. I think that they're extremely talented. Like when healthy, they're probably put the emotion aside, being a Lakers fan, probably the best team in the league. But if Kyrie's not there doing home games, what good is he to you during the season? That's my question. Is this worth the risk of not getting vaccinated along with your teammates? Are you in it to win a championship at the end of the day? That's ultimately like what you joined. You joined KD. You teamed up with KD4 and brought James Harden along, and that's not fair to him. You brought in a third superstar. That's trying to get a ring. That in most cases deserves a ring from all the years he put in Houston. So when you really look at Kyrie's, what's going on with his situation, I mean, it's his choice. I get that, and you have to respect those decisions. But at the same time, like your teammate, he is on a team, and he has to understand that even if he got traded to another team, he'd have to do this. He'd have to do the same thing. So I don't really get his thought process right now. It's always seemed to be a rebellion with Kyrie, no matter what it is. And, I think this is going to derail the Nets title hopes if he can't play during home games. You can't play during home games, but you can't just lean on James Harden and KD. I mean, you can, but for how long? That's the question. So him being able to go to back to practices, it's not enough. And he has to understand that. But the Nets are completely in the right for doing the right thing, for not, giving in to any demands that he has or making anything easier for Kyrie. They're going to practice at the facility. They're going to play their home games in Brooklyn. They're not changing anything up for Kyrie. They're not going to do it. And I said this before we started the segment. I think that they should really look into trading Kyrie, at this point, because you can win a championship with James Harden and Kevin Durant. You can. If you make the right trade for Kyrie, you can get some assets and some pieces in return. But if this gets out of hand throughout the season, so they're doing this experiment now, but ultimately I think the team is going to turn on Kyrie if they start losing games. That's ultimately what it comes down to, wins and losses when the season starts. And if he can't play home games and then they lose and they fall in a certain seeding in the East come playoff time, all the fingers are going to point at Kyrie. The front office is going to point at Kyrie. And that extension that he was supposed to get is not going to happen, And so I think that he's really playing in muddy waters here in this situation by being unvaccinated. And not only that, with his professionalism as a player, but his livelihood. I respect his decision, but I don't agree with it. Now, I believe that he should get vaccinated simply for the mere fact, not because he's a Brooklyn Net, not because he plays for a team, because he's a human being and he needs to take account his safety first.
Absolutely. So thank you, Marvin. That is a different take than we heard from you guys last week. Richie, anything new spur up in your thought process based off of hearing Marvin or having a week to sit on it, or this new news of New York really trying to crack down and even keep him out of practice?
Well, I wouldn't say new. I have two things to say. One, I think it's kind of bullshit. They're trying to say it's a private practice facility because the taxpayers paid for it, so it's not private. But two, Adrian Wojnarowski said that Kevin Durant, James Harden, Sahe, GM, and Sean Marks will all be involved in deciding whether or not Kyrie Irving can be a part-time player this season. A lot is riding on both Irving's short and long-term future in Brooklyn. So clearly, to Marvin's point, a guy like James Harden, who's been like desperately wanting that championship, and same thing with Kevin Durant, who left the Warriors to pave his own way, don't want to be dealing with this. And I'm sure for KD, it's a little awkward because, you know, as we've been told many, many times, Kyrie Irving and him are very, 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 very close. And the only reason he went to Brooklyn is because Kyrie wanted to go to Brooklyn. So, you know, I can't imagine what's going through their heads. You know, I'm not going to sit here as we discuss and try to imagine what's going through Kyrie Irving's head on this. But yeah, I mean, how many people get the privilege of going to work halftime? You know, I just don't see how this plays out realistically in terms of like him being able to play half the time. You know, and we talked about this last week where, you know, and Trey had mentioned it as well. It's like, you have to see what's best for the business. You know, Kyrie's doing what he thinks is best for him. So I just think, you know, realistically, you can't have two teams, essentially. You can't have the away team with Kyrie Irving and then the home team with KD and James. You know, it throws off your funk. It throws off your schemes. It throws off your plays. It's just not going to work. You know, if Kyrie was just some bench player, role player, then maybe, you know, it's worth the headache because it's not necessarily as critical to the game plan. But, you know, Kyrie Irving is imperative to them winning. Now, don't get me wrong, like Marvin said, if you can find somebody willing to take this man and get some sort of assets that aren't picks, but like players, then they're absolutely still contenders for sure. And, you know, make no mistakes about it. If Kyrie changes his mind and he's playing with them, they are the like empirical favorite. They are absolutely the best team in basketball from a 1 through 5. You know, don't include the bench, but don't get me wrong, the bench isn't actually bad. Like team, they're just unstoppable, offensively juggernauts. And realistically, I don't feel like any team can compete with them if they're all playing at their fullest potential. But, you know, when you're playing halftime, Kyrie Irving's going to help you steal a game, and then the other two have to do all the hard work. Like that's a lot. I don't think they're wanting that. I don't think they're willing to accept that. So I think this is going to come down to if he gets traded, it has to be to the states that will allow indoor play without vaccination. And there are states that do that, FYI, right? Because realistically, there's only 4 states currently that are requiring this. So there are many states. There are many teams that could get Kyrie Irving, and it's a matter of, do they want Kyrie Irving? Which again, he is a fantastic like superstar. I don't think anyone's ever questioned his talent. It's just, it's always been, does he really want to play basketball? I think that's what we've always discussed with the guy. You know, he's a sharpshooter, cerebral assassin. I don't think there's a guy when he's got his hand on the ball like that can just do whatever the heck he wants better than Kyrie Irving. But what team would that be? And, you know, that's a discussion for another day. But at the end of the day, I truly believe they're going to huddle up. They're going to maybe give this through, you know, 3 more weeks. And then they're going to say, Kyrie, what's it going to be, man? And if he doesn't want to do it, then it won't be right away. But they're going to start looking to get rid of him and trade him and get flip some current assets, not picks. This is a win now team. They're not getting any younger. James Harden wants a championship yesterday. So, you know, the only thing I'll say is I don't see this working out for Kyrie if he doesn't plan on getting a vaccination in Brooklyn, to clarify. And I don't believe he's going to get a vaccination. So I believe he will have to be traded. And ironically, I never would have thought that Ben Simmons is still going to play in Philadelphia and Kyrie Irving's the one that's actually going to get traded. It was definitely the other direction based on Ben Simmons' own, like, he's just losing too much money. So having said that, back to the point, I think it looks like at this rate, Kyrie Irving's time in Brooklyn will probably be more abrupt than we anticipated.
Interesting as always, my friend. Sahe, I do just want to mention, it's not a goat alert. I'm not going to pull it out like that, but I am going to pull it out. He did say that with Kyrie, Brooklyn was the best basketball team in the country. Feel free to correct that based on your thoughts of what's going on with the purple and gold. But mainly, I'm interested to hear where you're sitting now after having a week to kind of percolate on the Kyrie Irving story, and now knowing that it's kind of looking a little grim for his opportunity to even play away.
Yeah, I just feel like when it comes to this kind of topic, I'm just sad that it's come to this point, you know, that you've got to be like, you're either taking this vaccine or you're not going to be able to do what you love to do. I absolutely hate that for people. I am glad that Kyrie Irving is just going to be him. I wish everybody was like Kyrie. If everybody was like Kyrie, well, this is just the way I believe it and see it. Not everybody's going to believe it and see it that way. If everybody was like Kyrie and like people like me, these governments and people who control everybody would have no control. You know what I'm saying? So I think that that's what he's trying to like wake people up to. It's like these people that make us do these certain things that are stupid, and like we fight over politics, and these people that make the laws, like they really have no power. You know what I'm saying? But they use people like me, you, Richie, you know, Marv, to peer pressure each other into thinking like, yo, these guys know what they're saying. These guys are the absolute truth. They want us to take this vaccine, so we have to take it, you know, and people don't question it no matter what, because that's what, you know what I'm saying, people are saying. So it's just sad that it's come to that point. Like he should be like, yo, I don't want to take this vaccine, and it should be that. Because I don't know, I'm not going to get into the deep waters of it, like, because no matter what I say, I'm wrong, because I'm a anti-vaxxer to most people, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, I don't know who really, like, people act like they know, but who really knows, you know what I'm saying? And for Kyrie, who am I to say what he should do? If he never plays basketball again, you know what I'm saying? He'll be great. He'll be great in life no matter what he does. It's not grim for Kyrie Irving, like you stated in the question. Life is bigger than basketball, and this is something so serious. This is like his body, his health, you know. It's different, but like when you talk money and contracts and stuff like that, then you can stipulate things. But you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But I'm glad Kyrie Irving is doing whatever he's doing. Who cares about basketball? Brooklyn Nets weren't going to win the championship anyway, because it's all about them Lakers, baby. Them Lakers is going. You seen Russell Westbrook in the press conference? He was laughing about turnovers. He was like, "This is just a preseason. It don't count. Who cares?" Because they focus on the championship goal. They got everybody in line ready to go. Let's go, LeBron.
I knew it was coming at the end of that. Great, diverse opinions.
On the LeBron plug.
Folks, in the comments below, if you're watching us and you like seeing our pretty faces, you're on Facebook and YouTube, you hit us up in the comments below. If you're on the audio channels, we've just recently got into putting these post questions. So I'll drop this one in there as a poll, or no, I'll put this in the Q&A segment. We want to know what you think about this type of situation, what Kyrie's doing. We're going to move on. We're going to talk a little bit about the NFL, just 2 games that I pulled out. We'll break those down and we'll run over the fantasy real quick. But first game I have here is Green Bay versus Cincinnati. Now, I had the pleasure of actually sitting down and watching most of an NFL game this week, which was awesome. My call time was during the latter half of the fourth quarter, and this game went into overtime. Green Bay came out on top 25-22, but from what I watched, Cincinnati was in it, and they have, 3-2 record. I think the Bengals look better than I've seen them in a long time. I want to open this up just for a game breakdown. I can give you some stats if you want them. I got them right here. But we'll go reverse order. So Sahe, we'll start off with you, man. What do you think about Cincinnati and also Green Bay?
It was a great game to watch. I normally don't watch the Bengals like that hard, but I had the TV going. I was watching my Bucks on the other one, and I couldn't keep my eyes off the Bengals and the Packers game, simply for the fact that every time the kicker lined up, it was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Do they want it or don't they want it? And it was crazy, like the score, 22-22. I was watching the Texans and the Patriots because I had something riding on that game, and that game was 22-22 at the same time. And I'm like, what is this world right now? And I just had a dream about like the end of the world. So I was just like, what is all this going on? You know what I'm saying? A star came down and blew everything. It was crazy. I'm like, what is this? We were missing 5 kicks in a game. Matt Crosby for the Packers needs to go ahead and retire. And the boy from the Bengals, I don't know his name, he kicked that ball and he was like hugging his teammates and jumping for joy just to see that it was missed. I'm like, oh my God, what is this Sunday? What are we watching? It was such a great game. Joe Burrow put on a fantastic performance. He made rookie mistakes. Let's be honest. He's still a rookie. He threw some interceptions that he probably should have just threw out of bounds. He took a horrendous hit too on a 3rd and like 15, and he was nowhere near the first down line. He took a hit, and I'm like, oh my God, his season is over. What is he doing? Why did he run that? And it was just like, oh my God, this is so exciting to watch. It was a great game. The Bengals are going to be a force here in the next year or two. Jamar Chase is an animal. He's catching everything. He's looking real good. And yeah, that's what I took away from this game. Like, the Bengals are going to be good here soon. I'm not exactly sure when, but it's coming. Oh, yeah.
I have a couple of quick things. Well, first of all, McPherson is the kicker that you're referring to, I believe. And Joe Burrow, his stats on the day were 26 for 38, 281. He did have 2 interceptions, but he also had 2 touchdowns. And to your point about the hit, I didn't report it as an injury because it seems that everything is going to be okay, but he was taken into the hospital with throat contusions. They were looking at it, but from what I was reading, correct me if I'm wrong, Richie, we're headed to you next anyway. I believe that they're hopeful that everything is going to be all right with his throat. Richie, longtime Bengals fan, must be nice to see them making an effort.
Yeah, only Bengals fan on the panel, to be honest. But what I'll say is this: it reminds me of 2011. 2011 is when they drafted Andy Dalton, AJ Green. They ended up going 9-7 after that was the lockout year, and they had 4 Pro Bowlers: Jermaine Gresham, Andy Dalton, Geno Atkins, and AJ Green. So 3 rookies. This team has similar start. It's like, I feel like the Bengals are like in the last 30 years are basically this. They get a quarterback, they get some receiver talent, and they have like a small period of success, like Carson Palmer, Chad Ochocinco, TJ Houshmandzadeh, etc. And the same thing happened with Andy Dalton, AJ Green. And what could be happening is the same thing here. I would like to say, shout out to Chase, man. I think Jamar Chase did fantastic. And Joe Burrow had this rocket in the end of the second quarter. I don't know. You guys probably saw it. It was a 65-yard pass. And he's got a bullet for an arm. I think to Sahe's point, my biggest takeaway for Joe Burrow is he's even though it's his technical second year, I'm with Sahe. He's basically a rookie. And you're seeing those rookie decisions. 3rd and 15, and he tries to run. Like, come on, man, just slide. Michael Vick, you watch these great players who are faster than you and better than what you're trying to do. And they don't do that. They learn and don't do that. And it was unfortunate. I hope he's okay. They said, he should be all right. But that's the kind of stuff that needs to stop. He's not the only one that does it. Baker Mayfield does it. All these kids are doing it. And it's really silly. He's got an arm talent. He's not like Lamar Jackson, where he's like that versatile. He's not, like any of these guys. Not that he can't, he's not Tom Brady. He's not like that immobile, but he doesn't need to be doing this stuff. He's got stud wide receivers. It's honestly like Cincinnati and Pittsburgh have the same team. It just one has a really old quarterback. That's the best way to describe it. They have a 6'4" guy. They got a burner and they got another burner. Like they really have similar concepts, similar schemes. This team's been very gamey. They lost to Chicago, which kind of shocked me. They actually did better against Green Bay than I anticipated, but quite frankly, that's more on Crosby. I think this is more of Green Bay's inadequacies. Not that Cincinnati played poorly, but 3 kicks has a lot to do with why this game was so close, quite frankly, being missed like that. Cincinnati has some easy games. They're going to be playing the Lions next. Baltimore will be tough, but then they're playing the Jets. They're going to be playing the Raiders soon. And honestly, I hate to say it this way, but they're going to be playing Pittsburgh. So I feel like that's another free win. To Green Bay, you got to step it up, man. You got to step it up. This was a disappointing outing, in my opinion, for Green Bay. Again, this is an up-and-coming team. I think this team will be very good in the next 2 to 3 years. But they're very, very green, as we just discussed. And Green Bay being a veteran team, quite frankly, there was no business. This game was as close as it should have been, or it ended up being. Sorry, it should have been significant. Like, Green Bay should have scored 40, in my opinion. Like, I really think that Cincinnati's defense is very mediocre. And Green Bay's offense is very stellar. It was very disappointing to watch Green Bay, in my opinion, play this poorly. Obviously I'm a Bengals fan, and it's good to see that they played their capability, but this was more on Green Bay. The AFC North is a fantastic division. It always is. I'm looking forward to, Cleveland had a tough loss. Holy cow. We didn't get to talk about that, but this AFC North has a bunch of really, even those Pittsburgh's playing terrible, you never know, because it's the North and they're all real close together. I'll just leave it to Marv at this point, but looking forward to seeing Jamar Chase and the Joe Burrow connection for years to come. It's very exciting to see, finally have a 60+ yard type throwing quarterback again. Andy Dalton really wasn't that guy, and AJ Green unfortunately lost a lot of his career years to a quarterback that was marginally above average, and Joe Burrow could be exceptional. So that's the positive outlook for Cincinnati, is they have a very potentially awesome quarterback, a wide receiver he trusts a lot, and 2 other wide receiver studs. And honestly, CJ, the tight end, he's starting to really get a lot of comfort with him. So this could be a dynamic offense in 2 years.
Oh, absolutely. Real quick before we get over to you, Marvin, Jamar Chase finished the day with 6 receptions for 159 yards and a touchdown. Marvin, the Bengals are looking pretty good to everyone's point. What was your take on this matchup against the Packers? Being a former Packers, we've established that on the wire. He's no longer a Packers fan, but former.
Yeah, because I don't get sold anymore on the regular season. End of the game field goals for Mason Crosby. Because Mason Crosby should have lost his job a long time ago. Let him do that in the postseason. I want to see if they still keep this same guy that missed 3 field goals in 1 game in the postseason. That's just Packer things. Packers don't pack. But this game here just shows why the Packers are not consistent. This is like Richie said, they made some strides this offseason, making some defensive moves, but altogether, they're still not that good of a defense. But when you look at it, this game should have been over. Like, I was just looking at the updates on my phone, because I was watching the game off and on, y'all, but I was looking at the updates and I saw Evan McPherson, miss a 57-yarder. And then Mason Crosby get 3 opportunities. And then it's just like Aaron Rodgers couldn't get it done in the red zone. And I was just like, this is, I'm like, they literally are, this is, they're not playing consistent. I'm like, they should have ended this game. They should have hung up 40. And the Bengals honestly should have hung up 40, because the Packers defense is not all that good, so it was 2 bad defenses going against each other. And Jamar Chase, y'all, he's a stud. I mean, he's one of the best receivers in the league right now. I mean, he's putting up Randy Moss-like numbers. Honestly, but I'm not hating. They're a little inflated because the deep ball being thrown at him. It seems like a lot of these guys are whiffing on the deep ball. There's some bad defenses this year, y'all. Some bad cornerbacks. Because the way that he's getting open, I mean, he's catching it and just turning around. That's basically what he's doing. I don't really see too many balls being thrown in stride, like Jerry Rice. He's not that, but he's putting up numbers. He has shown why the preseason don't mean shit. It's just all about the talent. But I think the Bengals are showing themselves to be playoff contenders right now in that division, and they got to be taken seriously. Joe Burrow is, if he can stay healthy, they can make it. But I mean, like Sahe was saying, I mean, like he took a huge ass hit, and it just makes you wonder, like, are they going to do something to that line? Like, what is it going to take for the Bengals to realize, oh man, we got to spend all our money on the offensive line because he is our future. Like, he is your today and tomorrow. Without him, the Bengals are back to where they used to be for Marvin Lewis, pre-Marvin Lewis. So this was a great game. I mean, for the the Packers to finish it out, but they got to do something with Mason Crosby because he's got to go.
4 for 7.
4 for 7. Hope nobody picked him up in fantasy because I would be pissed. I considered it this week, and I stopped myself.
We'll get to. I made a risky fantasy decision that paid off. We'll get to that in just a second. What paid off till today? I shouldn't have looked at the score today. Real quick before we close the book on that, Aaron Rodgers, for all intents and purposes, to all of your points, should have got the job done. I mean, he was 27 for 39. To Marvin's point, 344 yards passing with only 2 touchdowns. So I don't know. Let us know in the comments what you think. We're running low on time. We're going to dive in real quick. Kansas City. It's still not looking good for Kansas City and the former AFC champions. They're 2-3 after losing to the Bills. Quick stats on it. Josh Allen was 315 yards for 3 touchdowns. He was 15 for 26. Patrick Mahomes, 33 for 54, 272 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. I don't have total. I'll get to the total turnovers as we move on, but we're going to go reverse order. Or wait, Sahe, did you get to talk? Yeah, you did. Marvin, what's your takeaway from Bills versus Kansas City?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Bills, it came in and did what I expected them to do from losing that AFC championship game. They came in, they were hungry. They felt the pain of losing that AFC title game, and you could sense that they came in and didn't see this as a regular season game. This was a statement win for the Bills. I watched the game from start to finish last night because I had Manny Sanders and Dawson Knox in my lineup in my other league, and they went off. But just to see how the Bills' offense and defense has evolved in the last couple of years has been amazing to watch, for real. I mean, Josh Allen is elite. Like, he is changing the game. Like, white man can jump in the league. I think Sports Illustrated came out with that today on IG. They had a post with him literally leaping over a guy, and it's a post that's gone viral now. Like, his pose midair, like he's up in the air, like he can get up. And I think there is serious threat, to the Chiefs. I don't see the Chiefs being Super Bowl contenders right now. I really don't. They're not the team that was once feared for the last couple of years. They're not coming into every game with that same mystique. I mean, they've got the weapons that can burn you, but I mean, off the long run that they've had, the injuries are starting to turn its ugly head. They've got the worst defense in the league, y'all. Y'all know that. Y'all see the game. They've got one of the worst. They got, if not the worst defense in the league. They give up so many air yards. But I mean, when you look at it, I mean, the Chiefs, they're in a hole. I honestly don't see them getting it together. They get to the postseason, but I'm not seeing Super Bowl. I'm seeing more so of the Bills, in that division. I'm seeing the Browns still being contenders, the Chargers making a run at it. I mean, the Chargers look really good, but I don't see the Chiefs being that perennial favorite that they were last year and the year before. Now, it's still early, but I mean, they just lost Clyde Edwards-Helaire to an MCL sprain. He's going to be out. Tyreek Hill is dealing with a knee injury. He's going to be out. So you've got who else you got to lean on? That's it. You can't expect Patrick Mahomes to be LeBron James. This is not basketball. This is football. You need everybody. And so this game was a statement win for the Bills. They came in and blew them out. Wasn't even close. They dominated both sides of the ball. The Bills are definitely shaping up to be a Super Bowl contender. But when you look at it, I think that Josh Allen has made a huge jump in the MVP discussion. And the Chiefs are no longer the favorite to me after this game.
All right, guys. We are short on time, about a minute and a half each. Sahe, real quick, what's your takeaway from Buffalo versus Kansas City?
Oh man, we destroyed them bums, didn't we? Ooh, man, it just ain't the same. That's all I got to say. Just ain't the same.
They're still recovering from that whooping. All right.
So they like Deontay Wilder now, sorry.
Right.
Coming up with excuses over and over. You hit me in the back of the head, man.
Excuses, man. Like
the gloves was messed up, man. Tom Brady was deflating balls in the Super Bowl.
My shoulder pads are too heavy.
Right.
Richie, after that, I mean, we're still short on time. The fumbles, interceptions. There was 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions by Kansas City. As far as turnovers go, Buffalo had a perfect game. What's your takeaway?
I mean, I'll be very succinct here. Josh Allen is incredible. He's the sole reason I lost fantasy outside of the fact that Dalvin Cook didn't play. And he looked like Kyler Murray. My guy was scoring 38 points a game. He scores 14 or something. And then I'm not salty that Justin has Josh Allen by any means, clearly. But Josh Allen carried them. I mean, he led the team in rushing touchdowns, threw 3. Patrick Mahomes had a fumble, 2 interceptions. Honestly, a lot goes on Patrick Mahomes. You know, Pringle's the other guy who did the fumble, but the reality, and we talked about this earlier, is they lost Sammy Watkins, and he was their slot guy. And everyone's always talking about Tyreek and Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. But when your next best target guy is Hardman, you're kind of in trouble. And then their defense is not, like, let's be honest here. So if they want to come back, and they can, they're going to have to figure out who can help Tyreek and Travis Kelce. It's a 2-man show. Clearly, Sammy Watkins had alleviated enough pressure last year, and it's impacting them now. I'm not sitting here saying Patrick Mahomes is washed or anything like that, but he's certainly not playing as well. But I do think that has a lot to do with Hardman being the Watkins replacement. 12 targets, 76 yards. That's not enough yardage for that many targets, honestly. Look at Jamar Chase. He had 160 yards on 11 targets. So, that's the difference. And, you have to step up. You're the Kansas City Chiefs. You got to make it happen, Hardman. You got to be the next guy.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to get into the plugs. I'll do a quick fantasy score rundown as it stands. Granted, there's a game playing. Team Justo is up over Prestige 146.7 to 135.56. Close game there. The Diggities, that's Marvin just whomping all over Tony Ray, 136.72 over 59.18. And a close game between Trey's Magnificent Team and Bando Bucko. Trey's got him 120.06 to 111.94. Those are our scores. We'll give you an update next week. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the audio platforms. We've got all of our old episodes on there. We've got the Q&A. We've got the poll. Make sure you find us on Facebook and YouTube. And don't forget to check out the H2G podcast. We're here every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern for The Wire. You guys have a good week.
Jonathan Taylor, one more touchdown, baby. Come on.
No.
Oh, he's still got a quarter, baby. Let's go.
He's on fire right now.
He's on fire right now.